Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Cade Bonsall. Once again, I'm joined by my friend Chris, and today we are going to be doing an interview where I'm going to be asking Chris about his unpopular movie opinions. So first off, Chris, welcome back.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So your unpopular opinions when it comes to movies. Why don't we start with this one? So the first one is your opinion on the movie Sucker Punch by Zack Snyder. So what exactly is your opinion on this movie? So do you think it's kind of an underrated film?
It's a underrated film, definitely. I when it first came out, let me tell you, there were so many of us geeks and nerds just excited to see this film. You have excellent CGI. It's done really well. You have actual characters in prosthetics, the zombies, the monsters, and all that kind of stuff. It looks really good. It's captured very well. But I mean, it's for me, the fact that it's underrated kind of like boggles my mind, or why people don't go back and be like, hey, this is a good movie, let's watch it. You got a story there. It's a sad story about this girl who goes to an asylum because of situations with her stepdad. It's not right, but she gets put into this asylum, and it's sad. And and then you have all these amazing actresses, absolutely gorgeous actresses, kicking butt against Nazis, zombies, samurai, mobsters. It's like a geek's like dream to see this kind of thing. And I mean, I guess maybe the storytelling wasn't great, but for what I got out of it was like it's a really good action movie. It's got a decent story, and it's checking off all the boxes of what a geek slash nerds should like in a film. I mean, it's no like Lord of the Rings, long and in depth story, but I mean, it's got a lot of things going for it.
No, yeah, I will agree with that. And I think one thing about Zack Snyder as a director, I know he's someone that, a lot of people kind of have a mixed relationship with, but he's always been a director that I've been a fan of. And I think that if there's one thing that he always achieves well in his movies, I think it's always the imagery that he has in his films. I think he always knows how to capture a film beautifully.
Yeah, he knows how to get a good shot. That's probably one of the best things about it is like he'll focus on a specific shot in a fight scene or a combat scene or something like that, even just like a surreal kind of moment. He can capture a really beautiful shot. And Sucker Punch, he does it like multiple times, multiple times. Yeah, I don't know. Like it's an unpopular opinion, I guess, about that movie, but I think it's underrated, and it's for me personally, I think it does kind of stand up to the times. It aged well personally, from what I think. Like I said, the CGI is amazing, and so even with today's movies, I think it kind of stands up. It just you have to go back and watch it, really.
Yeah, yeah, makes sense. But yeah, why don't we get on to your next opinion? So your next one has to do with the movie Equilibrium. So this is a movie that you find underrated and you even call a brilliant movie, right?
Oh my gosh. So Equilibrium, you have The Matrix, you have John Wick, you have all these really awesome action films. And I believe, yeah, it's Christian Bale, right? Who's the lead actor in this one. It almost plays off of a Matrix theme. But the idea and concept that's behind this particular film, it really makes you think. It really does. It makes you think about, like, for one, okay, so everybody's taking this drug or whatnot to numb your emotions. Now everybody's emotionless. There's no more wars, there's no more hate, there's no more love, all that kind of stuff. And then you have these guys who enforce that. And then you have this man who is who goes through a change, like he doesn't take the medication or whatever it is, and he's going through this change and he's feeling and all this stuff. And it's a great film to watch this transformation, especially in this kind of world. And then not only that, I mean, you have the action scenes, the what is it, gunjitsu, I think it is, and awesome scenes there. But it's I think it's an underrated film because it has all these different elements. Does it stand up to modern day films graphic wise? Probably not. CGI wise, definitely not. But storytelling wise, absolutely.
Yeah, and would you say that for the film, do you think that this is kind of also an underrated performance by Christian Bale as well?
Yes. in this particular film, like we have him in other films, modern day films, latest ones, and all that kind of stuff. In this one, he shows the fact that he can go from having no emotions to slowly getting these and feeling, and then you can see the reactions and everything on his face towards the end. It's a brilliant performance that I don't think a lot of people notice right away. They're just trying to see like, oh, there's some action here, there's some interesting things here. But like if you take your time to actually watch the changes taking place, it's done really well.
Yeah, and I think that one of the great things about Christian Bale, I don't think I've ever seen him give a bad performance in a movie. That's how great of an actor he really is.
He definitely owns the character that he's playing in every film he does. Absolutely. And he does a great job in this one. Everybody in this film does a brilliant performance. But like I said, it doesn't stand up to the times when it comes to the CGI in certain areas. You can kind of notice those kind of things because I don't think it's a very high budget film. But if you just put those off to the side, you got amazing performances, a great story, and some twists and turns that really kind of stick with you.
Yeah, I agree. But yeah, why don't we move on to your next opinion? Your next one has to do with Deep Space Nine. And from what you've said here, apparently that's where Star Trek lost you.
Oh yeah, so I know this is a TV show and all that kind of stuff, and this might be a bit weird because it is a TV show and Star Trek and all that kind of stuff, but I took it upon myself to watch every single Star Trek to just because I'm a lover of Star Trek. The original Star Trek was amazing, great in all its original nostalgia. The Next Generation, I watched all 8 seasons 3 times. Cannot get enough of that roller coaster. And then I got into season 2 of Deep Space Nine, and then I'm like, it's a bar fight every episode. I'm not. You're not keeping me you're not keeping me interested in this film. I guess later on it gets better, but if you're supposed to capture somebody to continue watching, this is where it lost me. And then after that, I was like, okay, I'll put this on pause. I'll go on to the next ones, and it just started to get worse and worse from there. And I think we're up to the movies were came out. They were great, or they're all right, and a couple of the new TV shows, and they just don't hold up to the originals, next generation, and the original Star Trek. And I think the biggest problem is that nothing is staying episodic anymore. Everything has to be a season, and it all has to be a consistent thing all the way through. Where in the original and Next Generation, and even in Deep Space Nine, each episode was its own beginning and conclusion. Even if it was a two-parter, it was a beginning and a conclusion, but everything was different. Every episode was pretty much different and telling a new story. And you don't get that anymore in seasons or TV shows. It's 8 episodes of one large story. But in Deep Space Nine, yeah, sadly, it's you have a Ferengi therapist. You have Odo, which is changing. He's always hating everything, and a whole lot of politics that I'm not really interested in, and that's where it kind of just lost me. Bar fight after bar fight. But yeah, Deep Space Nine is where it all ended.
All right, I understand. But yeah, why don't we get on to your next one? So your next one has to do with Event Horizon, and according to you, this is your favorite horror movie, and you're kind of surprised that it never really gets brought up all that much.
It doesn't. Like, if you ask anybody their favorite horror movies, it's gonna be a modern day, like it's gonna be what is it? Omen, I think it is. I don't know. There's a lot of them out there. And if this is an older movie that has everything going for it. You have sci-fi, you have a ship that went to a different universe and back and brought a demonic presence, and then you have these people trying to survive. It's if you're talking about horror movies that's not going to go off the rails into something crazy, this one sticks with a constant theme all the way through. And for a horror film, this is the one that does it for me. This one, I had a really good jump scares on this one and a really interesting story along with it.
Yeah, and I think that that's something that, for me personally, that's something I always kind of want to get out of horror movies. I want to get Yeah, I want jump scares, but I want more than just jump scares. I actually want a story that keeps you invested, and that is important when you watch any type of movie. I don't know if you agree.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's where a lot of horror movies lose me is like, you know, people be like, "Oh, I love this horror movie." It's not a horror movie. It's just how many different ways can we brutally massacre a person? Or is there an actual story to it? You know, like does it make you think? You know, yeah, in Event Horizon, you have a whole story there from beginning to end. You have these characters who are experiencing these horrors of this ship and where it's gone and came back from, and all the way to the very end. And even at the very end, it twists, you know, and it's not over yet. The guy, you're still stuck. You know, it's great all the way from beginning to end, and it holds that aura of a horror film all the way through.
Yeah, it does. But yeah, why don't we move on to your next one? I think this is where we might upset some listeners. So
Oh
next one
yeah,
has to do with your opinion on Harry Potter. So you are not a fan of this franchise at all, is that right?
I am not. I think personally, it's just a. I mean, if you're interested in the actual lore and everything about Harry Potter, that's great. There's a lot of stuff there you can dive into, but I think for a lot of things now it's just a cash grab. You have all the different what are they called? Schools, Gryffindor, Slytherin, all those different kind of areas.
Yes. Yes.
Um, for me, it's like there was a horrible movie that did this first. Absolutely horrible movie that did this first. What team are you on? Are you team Jacob or are you team Patterson? I forgot his
Per-
name.
Personally, I'm team neither, but
Exactly,
yeah.
exactly. But that's the thing. Okay, that started from there. Now you go into Harry Potter. Oh, what class are you in? Are you Slytherin, Gryffindor, Ravenclaw, Hufflepuff? All these different things. What are you? That's it's missing so much though. Like I know the books specifically kind of stuck to the idea of Harry Potter and the classrooms and the mages and magics, but in the movies I think we're missing a lot. You have really cool storytelling that just kind of gets cut out and then back to the bickering kids. You know, it's just like you have giant spiders. I would have loved to have seen more of that. You have dragons. I would have loved to see more of that. You have, you know, very little mage stuff going on. Like here's a wand, I'm gonna make something float. I'll shoot some lightning out of my thing. That's it. You're done. There's not a whole lot going on when it comes to the magic part of it. It's the movies didn't keep me interested. I don't think I've honestly I went through every single one of them and I couldn't be like, you know, which one's my favorite because I there's not a one that's my favorite. I mean, good graphics, there's good ideas, but I
Good
think
acting too.
good acting. I'm not saying the actors didn't do a phenomenal job. Absolutely did a phenomenal job from what they had to work with, but I think like I if you're going to create a magical world with all this magical stuff, where's the magic? You know, it's not there. Like I said, it's a bunch of like high school stuff, bickering between kids, relationship problems. It's okay, but if you're supposed to be a wizard, you're supposed to be a witch, you're supposed to go out there and you know, learn magic. Where's the magic? It wasn't there for me.
Okay, I understand. Well, tell you what, I think that that'll bring us into our most or your most controversial opinion, and that is your opinion on the MCU. And I wanted to talk about this with you because it's something we've talked about a lot on this channel before, but I just really wanted to break down your overall relationship with this franchise because from what I've understood, you were a fan originally, right?
I was originally a fan of Marvel, yeah. And even in the beginning when Marvel started doing their movies with not the Fantastic Four, I'm talking like, you know, Iron Man or Captain America, the original movies like that, those were written really well. You had a solid character, you know, a superhero, you had an origin story for them, and it wasn't going off the rails into something crazy. You know, it was a grounded story. Even the sequels to those, Iron Man 2 and 3, all of them actually. You got the Hulk, you have Captain America, all those. The sequels were actually decent as well. it wasn't until you got into the full universe of it all that it it was nice flashy colors and little story, little anything that you can get behind, because it's for one, you have time manipulation. For two, you have infinite portals to infinite universes. There's no consequences in this world anymore, where in the beginning it felt like there was something could happen. The person you love could die and that's it. Well, now, your person could die. Well, I'm just going to go back in time a couple of minutes and save her. It's there's no consequences anymore, and it just lost me everywhere on that.
I understand. Yeah, and I think that the whole idea of introducing time travel in any franchise, that's I think kind of risky because you bring this huge thing into a franchise and you could basically undo everything that's happened. But and they obviously did that in Avengers Endgame, which I think it's a good movie, but I think that by including that, I get that it's what they needed to get all the Infinity Stones. But if you think about it, it's kind of similar. And this going back to when we were talking about Harry Potter. Remember how they brought in the time turner in Prisoner of
Mhm.
Azkaban, and then they never brought it back for any of the sequels after that.
Yeah,
Think that yeah, I think that that's kind of similar to what happened in Avengers Endgame. You bring this into the franchise and then you just never use it again. And it's just one of those moments where you go, oh, so when time travel suddenly becomes super, super helpful, but then they just don't use it in the future at all.
if you have the ability to stop manipulate time, then you've won the game. You pretty much own any battlefield, any or any argument, anything. You own it all when you have the ability to control time. And yeah, and that's where it just loses me. The other thing is to the power levels. I mean, Thanos, like I think we brought this up before. Thanos is supposed to be this all powerful, scary being, and everybody fears him. Yet he can come down here, and I don't know why he came down here and lost. I mean, he should have had no problem with these people if he's conquered many worlds. It doesn't make much sense to me.
Well, to be fair, I mean, he did win an Infinity War. It's really Endgame when he did lose, but
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
but yeah, well, time travel again. So I don't know.
Yeah, and I think that another part of that, by including it, it kind of relates to how I feel about, you just bring something in and then you kind of ignore it. Well, think about this. Look back to some of the earlier Marvel films when they brought in the Infinity Stones, when they introduced them. They didn't just introduce one of them in Guardians of the Galaxy and tease all the other ones and then, okay, well, that's done. We're not going to talk about that anymore. No, now the Infinity Stones were the whole part of the story. You
Mhm.
can't just ignore that, but then they include time travel in Endgame and then they use it and then never use it again. And
Yeah,
yeah, and I kind of think that that's how I feel about the new why they haven't ignored the whole multiverse saga that they have going on. And I understand that you have your issues with that, but they didn't just include it in Spider-Man No Way Home, like introduce it or whatever and then ignore it. At least now that became the whole part of the franchise, like the whole point of the franchise, if you know what I mean.
yeah. Well, the multiverse. I know it probably exists in the Marvel universe. I know it's there. They've brought it up. It's there. Time travel is there. They've brought in all these massive elements into a franchise that, well, now nothing matters anymore. There is no more consequences, and if you lose interest in one, well, go to a different universe. It's probably better there. It. And I hate to have to bring my beloved DC into this, but they did the same thing. I feel bad. They did the same thing. But Marvel, they really capitalized on the time travel and the multiverse. They almost too much to where it was like, what am I watching? Nothing makes sense anymore. And I don't know. I mean, like, I think the only thing I've really enjoyed when it came to any part of the multiverse or the time traveling, anything like that, was Guardians of the Galaxy 3 when Gamora came back. And Gamora was like, I'm not the one that you knew. And she's a completely different person. She doesn't have the feelings for him. All these different things. And he's like, oh, crap. You're not the same Gamora. I liked that because it was acted great. The story was great. The conversation between the two was great. It was done really well, even comedic at the end of it. But in the other ones, in Endgame, when everything's going on with it just it lost me. I think that's where Marvel should just stop. Because now as there's nowhere else they could go where anything feels like there's any more consequence anymore. So I think they should just stop there, and that's it.
I understand. I'll respect your opinion. But yeah, do you have any more unpopular opinions you'd like to talk about?
Uh, let's see here. So my, I think, well, if the MCU does do anything, I don't think it should be MCU anymore. It should go back to just standalone films. And I think the Fantastic Four has a really cool concept or actors behind them. I forgot the name of the guy who played Fantastic Four in
John Krasinski?
yes, yes. I think they have a really cool idea, or they could have a really cool idea with that guy playing Mr. Fantastic and the other guys jumping in as the Fantastic Four. But they should definitely do it not as an origin story. Let them be the Fantastic Four for a while. Give them and introduce to the film their villains, the Fantastic Four villains, and then work with that. I think that could be a really cool kickoff if they want to continue the superhero genre of films that they want to do. They should do that instead. Start a standalone film with that. That would be a really good kickoff.
Yeah, I'll have to agree with that because I look back at a lot of superhero movies in general from both Marvel and DC and just superhero movies like overall. I think that a lot of times the first movie deals with the origin way too much because I get that it's all compelling and it's nice to see how the hero became who they are, but I think that the origin is in the first movie is done a little too often, too excessively because some of the heroes that they bring back and they reintroduce, you think, okay, well we kind of know their backstories already. Do we really need to see it again?
Right, exactly. And I think that's where you and I still differ on this one. I love Ben Affleck's version of Batman.
Me too.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, I
Yeah,
remember.
I like Ben Affleck's version. I don't think he's my favorite, but I still do like him.
Yeah. I think he did a great Batman. I think, well, and that's where I think a lot of people just don't jump on board with is like I said before, he's been Batman for 20 years now.
Yes.
It's not an origin story Batman anymore. He's a seasoned Batman crime fighter. He has his time as Batman. He's lost his Robins, several different Robins now already. So when people are like, "This guy is brutal," I mean, yeah, why wouldn't you be? You're not just a detective anymore. You're not just fighting, the Joker anymore. You're fighting things beyond even him. So yeah, he is going to be a little bit more darker. He is, and that's what I think I like the most about Ben Affleck's Batman, or at least that version of him is that he's not an origin story. I didn't need to see his parents die another 4 times. We're good. We got it. And I think if they could do it, Ben Affleck, or not even Ben Affleck, I think if they were to do another Batman, Batman Beyond should be the next one. Absolutely. They need to if they're going to start anything up, it should be Batman Beyond and then go from there.
Yeah, I think that would be really cool. And yeah, I can really agree with what you're saying, how Ben Affleck's Batman is a much darker Batman than he was. Yeah, it makes sense because of how much he had been through. And yeah, it's nice that they didn't show us, well, they do show us his backstory again. They show what he happened to him with his parents, but still, it's not him at the beginning of his career or in the early stages, which I think is what they've said is going to happen with Superman Legacy. It might be a younger Superman, but it's not going to be an origin story. And honestly, I think that that's a good idea because, again, Superman has a great backstory, but I mean, we've seen it retold so many times.
Right. And I guess an unpopular one here would probably be the what is it? Superman versus Batman.
Batman versus Superman. Yep.
Yeah, that one. I know that everybody doesn't like that one. I guess I was talking to someone a little bit ago, and they're like they didn't like the way they portrayed Wonder Woman, how she just jumps into a conflict between the boys, and that's it. She has to put a stop to it and then go fight the supervillain or whatever it is. But I mean, like you have 3 characters introduced or in there. You have Batman, Superman, then Wonder Woman, and they all have to help each other take on God, what was his name?
Doomsday.
Doomsday, Zod, Doomsday. Yeah. So, and I think the thing I liked about that the most was you had a power level that you needed three people to take care of here. Wonder Woman couldn't do it alone, Batman couldn't do it alone, and Superman couldn't do it alone. They all three had to take on this immensely powerful villain here. And in in uh in the MCU, the Marvel universe, in Endgame, you had this immensely powerful supervillain that, I don't know, didn't seem as powerful as Doomsday, and yet he was supposed to be. But I like the way that the that particular show, Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, both had to, all three of them had to take on Doomsday in order to defeat him, and Superman had to sacrifice himself just to end it all. So I thought that was a really cool scene at the end there, how they did that all together.
Yeah, and I think, one thing that I remember, I think I heard people when the movie came out, I think I remember people saying that they were disappointed Wonder Woman wasn't in the movie as much as she was. But to me, people who say that forgot that it's not about her. It's called Batman versus Superman. They're supposed to be the focus of the movie. As cool as it was to see her in it and, spend some time with her, again, it's called Batman versus Superman. It's about their conflict with each other.
Yeah, and I think introducing her towards the end of the film was a brilliant idea because it sets everybody up like, okay, Gal Gadot is now Wonder Woman. We're gonna see a standalone Wonder Woman movie. We're gonna see a couple of them, but we don't talk about the second one. We're gonna get this character now in her own movie. I thought it was a brilliant way of introducing her, regardless of it being a Batman versus Superman. The comic books have them. The armor that Batman wears is identical to the armor that was in the comic books. Superman was Superman. The way that they had the way that they interacted with themselves was pretty close to the comic books. And then at the very end, I mean, like you have even in the comic books, an older Batman. He has gray hair. He's fighting Superman. So I mean, a lot of it was pretty accurate. And then, yeah, at the end, all three of them come together, and then you have Wonder Woman's introduction, and then it ends, and then you have the beginning of the DCU. And if they had more time and they didn't have complications, I think behind the scenes with a lot of stuff, I think it could have really been a really cool universe for DC. Sadly, it didn't go that way.
Yeah, it is unfortunate, but either way, it is still, I think, an enjoyable movie. But overall, yeah, are there any other popular opinions you wanted to discuss?
No, I think that's it for me. Yeah, I think that's it for me. I think those are the ones that the films that I enjoyed the most, the ones that I didn't enjoy the most, and just my thoughts on a couple of the ones that I feel could have been, if people kind of like looked at them differently instead of just like as a superhero film and kind of dived more into like what they were trying to represent or what they're trying to show, you would kind of understand that like a lot of these things were in the comic books, but it's kind of hard to, I guess, bring them to film. I don't know, but it's just because I dive in a whole bunch of different things.
Yeah, makes sense. All right, guys. Well, thank you for listening to our interview. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will see you later. Thanks. Bye.